Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Congressman Mark Amodei of CD2, the first of two interviews with him coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Safety is the #1 priority for the trucking industry. Over $7 billion a year is spent on technology like this electronic eye that will apply the brakes automatically. But the most important factor for safety is the truck driver. These hardworking men and women who safely move over 70% of our nation's freight and 94% of Nevada's. We thank you because trucks move America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Congressman Mark Amodei of CD2. Pleasure to have you back on the program, sir. I hate the circumstances. Just start out by bringing us up to date. We're taping this on the morning of Wednesday, April the 8th. So tell us the latest as you know it.
Well, from the federal perspective, Sam, it's okay. The CARES Act was passed 10 days ago or something like that. So we've got, you've got the whole White House COVID task force folks going. Money's starting to go out to hospitals to advance pay them for Medicare, Medicaid, stuff like that. Money from CARES is starting to go out directly to hospitals because they've got cash flow issues and they've got payrolls to make and all that other sort of stuff. The unemployment stuff is flowing. I think the Nevada Dieter folks are catching up. Unprecedented wave that they were hit with, and they've done a pretty good job in terms of getting that done. So, you know, we're multitasking on the business front, and also on the health front. You're starting to see some preliminary stuff where, quite frankly, the West Coast, knock on wood, is leveling in terms of the California and Washington state issues for infections and folks being hospitalized and those sorts of things. As we talk today, the New York stuff is hitting its peak, we think. Not good news. There's a lot of people that are passing away as a result of that. But quite frankly, it gives you a little bit more certainty in terms of what's coming, what do we have to deal with, what do these models look like, who gets it that's asymptomatic, who gets it that doesn't have to go to the hospital, who gets it that does, and who gets it that ends up being on the ventilators. So, you know, supply, hospitals, funding for state and local governments. The president granted Governor Sisolak's National Guard activation request, which means the federal government pays for the National Guard. So you talk about all this stuff. We've just done a preliminary total, and it's not mission accomplished. But quite frankly, it looks preliminarily, the state of Nevada, just the state, not the locals, spends about $1.1 billion a month by their 2019 budget. And so right now, when we're looking at the federal stuff that's in the pipeline, been approved, yet to come, stuff like that, in basically 30, 60 days, there's well over $4 billion in federal aid that is coming or has been sent to Nevada across that whole panoply of economic as well as healthcare stuff. Not mission accomplished, but it's like, I think the federal government is basically, for an unprecedented circumstance, it's like, hey, this isn't bad performance.
Okay, and let's deal with the reality of this situation, which is that the federal government is a giant ship. It does not turn quickly. The fact that it has done this much this quickly, just in approving the funding, let alone getting it in any way, shape, or form to the states, is pretty incredible.
Well, I mean, the Paycheck Protection thing, which was a 500 employees or less employer thing, basically rolled out Friday. I mean, it's off to the races. Everybody's patting themselves on the back, and that's good. We've got some issues here in Nevada and some other with small gaming employers that we're still fighting. We've been basically banging on the door for 7 days now trying to get that fixed, but things like this come up.
Explain what the problem is that, because Congresswoman Susie Lee also put out a piece yesterday afternoon trying to get something done about this. Explain what the problem is and what we need to have as a resolution.
Well, the problem is the SBA, who we were told would just guarantee the loans and administer them, but would not be deciding who's in them or out of them. That's what the CARES Act did, basically said, oh, we have a regulation that's several decades old that says if more than a third of your income comes from gaming, you can't participate in 7A. Wonderful. That's not CARES. CARES is a federal statute signed by the president that said we want to basically provide a bridge for 60 days for employers with 500 or less. There was no distinction, and as a matter of fact, we made clear gaming was not to be singled out for exclusion in any way, shape, or form for the big folks or the little folks, and somebody in a bunker somewhere in Treasury decided this. So now we've been working on it for 7 days. I've been talking with the Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, been talking with Eric Ulan, the head legislative guy for the White House, and I think we're going to get it fixed. But quite frankly, Sam, it's like it needs to be fixed now, because guess what? We're already talking about needing more money for the Paycheck Protection Program, because they say the goal is we want to make sure, and I agree with it, that everybody that needs it as a small business employer gets it. So basically to have SBA bureaucratically saying, oh, but you're not eligible because you're in gaming, and we have a reg with no support in Congress in a statute. And so we're making the decision for the CARES Act that you can't participate is absolutely abominable.
And one of the things behind this is that, you know, a bar that has slot machines in the counter at the bar, they get a substantial portion of their revenue from gaming.
Listen, you've got a ton of, it's the tavern business down in Las Vegas. In Montana, it's not just Nevada. Well, you know, Nevada. In Montana, everybody who has a bar and restaurant, part of their liquor license comes with a gaming license. It's a huge thing in Montana. Kentucky, Mitch McConnell's home state. Horse racing, I think there's betting on that, Sam. And so it's like, this isn't just something that's like, oh yeah, those folks out in Nevada. 43 states between lotteries, horse racing, you name it, in one form or another would be excluded from this. And they're the small people. The definition of the Act says small business is 500 or less, not 500 or less and let us see how you make your money. So I think we're going to get that fixed. I had a nice talk with Mark Meadows about 32 hours ago. He said, I will fix this for you. I'm going to work on it tonight. He's a good guy, and I trust him. He's a friend. I served with him. But quite frankly, in this atmosphere with you know, the crunch of the whole thing, I think he's right. I hope he's right. I'll believe it when I see it.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back, and I've got a whole bunch of specific issues I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
The people are calling me asking where the help is.
Okay.
We'll be right back. As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Because of UMC, I'm putting my free time to good use.
Because of UMC, she keeps me on my toes.
Because of UMC and this guy, I'm here.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Congressman Mark Amodei. Some good news out of Northern Nevada is that Hamilton is building a ton of ventilators. Is that correct?
Yeah, they got a contract through Health and Human Services, DHS at the federal level. They're partnering, I believe, with GM, have selected a site because they're already here to actually do the manufacturing. FEMA basically contracted for, I think, 100,000 ventilators nationwide to be done or delivered in, at the beginning or end of June. And my understanding is that the hometown folks here, although the head of the company's in Switzerland, but basically the American headquarters here has got a contract to build 25,000 of them. So, I mean, not that they're for Nevada, they'll go into the strategic stockpile and whatever, but quite frankly, with the trends the way they are now, if they don't change, 100,000 ventilators in the strategic stockpile is pretty good news in terms of availability. And as you watch things develop, it's like we don't need them all today, but we do need, you know, to anticipate, plan for the worst, hope for the best. So yay for the Hamilton folks in Reno.
Let's talk about some of the questions that I've been getting from people.
Okay.
Companies, first of all, were insanely trying to get into the websites on last Friday, to be able to apply for these SBA loans.
Yep.
And the concern was that the SBA was going to run out of money if people didn't apply and get in line fast enough. Address that to start out with. I mean, is the federal government not going to put in as much money as is essentially needed for this at this point?
Well, we started out in the CARES Act with $350 billion. Both sides agree. They don't agree on everything, but they do agree that hey, $250 billion to take us to basically 60% of $1 trillion is a good number for right now. Do I think that will, and so the Senate's going to try to pass it through unanimous consent tomorrow, Sam. And so we'll see if it's like everybody agrees that this is a good program, that small businesses should have this bridge to get through these 60 days, and we'll reevaluate to see if it needs to be longer or whatever, that it's a good tool, it's working, and that they should have that. And the Vice President on a call I was on this morning said, we want all small businesses to have the money they need. So what the definition of that is in a dollar amount is yet to be determined. But for right now, it's like, hey, we need to change that from 350 to 600 billion with the 250,000 authorization infusion. So the idea is it's working well. There's some glitches, and we've talked about one of them. But quite frankly, it's working well. We need to do that. It's based on people keeping people on the payroll. And so let's declare victory and make sure that it's funded appropriately. So I think when you say, is there going to be enough money? It's like there's recognition that I don't think anybody thinks 350 would have done it completely. And so the first week of that has proven that. And so it's like, here's another 250. Let's see how that goes. And then if we need more, I think it's, you know, listen, it's to get people through this so that when the economy is ready to start coming back and we can, you know, balance health with activity, that it comes back as soon as possible, which is a good goal.
Okay, so one of the problems is, and 60 Minutes did a big report on this last Sunday, was people just not being able to get into the systems, either on a statewide basis or into the federal sites. Are we seeing a ramping up of employees and technical support to be able to get more people able to be into these websites?
Well, I know that there's a federal piece for unemployment for the state that basically ramps up and recognizes the fact that you've gone from almost no unemployment to, oh my God. So the answer is yes, generally. An important thing to know about PPP, though, is it was designed so that your banker is your point of contact. And it was designed so that bankers and credit unions had the ability to take your application and make a decision on the spot there and get the loan funded. Now, the SBA is involved because it's like kind of on the framework of the 7A program, although, I won't go back to what we talked about before. So the SBA and Treasury keep coming out with guidance as we go. But as far as getting into a website, perhaps there's some frustration with the banks, although I'll tell you what, there's like 80 billion approved and 100 billion in the pipeline as of today, and the program's been open for 5 days. Now, 2 of them are over the weekend, but nobody really cares about weekends these days. So it's like, guess what? There's a ton of stuff in the system right now. The only problem with that is you're going, well, you got 180 billion going right now. That's almost half of what you put in, which is why we need more money. And I think the money will be coming. It's just whether or not we have to endure another round of various political agendas that want to be, tag on with that sort of stuff. So we're going to find out tomorrow if it'll go unanimous consent in the Senate for the increase. Because if it does, that puts a lot of pressure on the House and the majority party there to go, don't be holding this stuff up. If the Senate can find their way through to this, fine. And by the way, some of the stuff they're talking about is quite frankly, it's like more money for hospitals, more money for government stabilization. Those are good things, but it's like right now the one that's already half out of money after 5 days is Paycheck Protection Program.
Okay, so when you look at and this is the shocking part about our country, is when you look at the number of businesses, because the country is small business.
Yep.
The big businesses look really huge, but by comparison, it's the medium and small sized businesses that really drive the economy.
That's the glue that holds everybody together.
And yet they are a month to 60 days out at most before they collapse.
Yeah. Well, Sam, I'm not going to go down a list for you because there's no point, and somebody will decide that. But it's like, one thing this has taught a lot of us is it is amazing, whether it's municipalities, whether it's states, whether it's public, health organizations and whatever, it's like, guess what? Cash flow is the lifeblood of their existence. And if you mess with the cash flow, it's like, hey, we can't exist without normal cash flow or some help in that. So I'm not judging any of that. I'm just saying I had kind of assumed that, if you were the power company or the this or that, some of those foundational things that we count on things for, and it's like, guess what? This has stretched everybody from government to healthcare facilities to businesses, big and small, and it's like, wow. I mean, I guess it's a realization that our economy, even when it's cranking away, is a pretty fragile thing.
Well, let's look at the reality. As a small businessman myself, this program is owned by me. I fund it. Yep. I have gone to the wall on several occasions over the last 20 years to maintain keeping the program on the air. My house has been involved with this several times.
Yeah.
All small businesses go through this.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that tells you that they're a small business and they don't go through financial crises at times is just kidding themselves. So I think that if anybody knew the problems associated with being a small business person, they would never get into business.
Yeah.
I mean, they would never. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
One of the most psychologically damaging things parents can do to children in divorce is disparage one another, which is why I can't believe I even have to make this commercial. Half of your kids' genetics come from this person you're spewing hate about. Your children have the right to love you both, but more than that, they deserve to love themselves.
Marilyn York might be a men's rights divorce attorney, but this is for every selfish parent. Shut up!
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. And a lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, Give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Congressman Mark Amodei. So normally, when a small business goes to the bank, you put in an application, you have to turn in your tax returns, good year, bad year, whatever it might be. It's a long process. What is happening here that's different?
Well, what's different is they basically said the SBA will guarantee your loans, bankers. So you're the point of contact. Here's the 2-page application you'll use. Obviously, from a traditional loan thing, if you got no cash flow, whatever, it's like, I'm not putting up security like my house or something like that. So the idea was, let bankers make the decision on compliance with what the CARES Act requirements are. Yes, your credit union or your bank, and they took it and they say, okay, we approve it, here you go. They get 5 points of whatever that amount is from the federal government for doing it. And then the SBA guarantees it. So if it turns out you don't pay your loan back, it's not on the bank's portfolio because the federal government is guaranteeing them. That was done basically to make this a speedy point of banking or credit unioning process so that it can be done quick. People can get the relief they need in real time instead of grinding through what many small businesses know as the SBA 7A process, which is not quick or nimble.
One of the presidents of the Fed was on 60 Minutes a couple of weekends ago talking about in 2008, the Fed was not aggressive enough in putting money into the system. And this time around, they're going to be as aggressive as it needs to be. This is pretty astonishing.
Well, and I guess I would call that lessons learned from the whole financial crisis at that point in time. Compared to this, to where it was like, well, you're doing it, but you're plodding along. So I'll give Secretary Mnuchin credit. It's like they have done a pretty good job of going, we need to surge money now. There need to be rules. There need to be oversight. So it's not just throw it all out there and declare victory. But I think they've done a pretty good job of learning those lessons while making resources available. So, so far so good.
One of the things that's important to point out is the public didn't do this. This was a federal, state-by-state shutdown of businesses. That's where the responsibility
I mean,
was.
the reality is this. All of our emergency response things, whether it's health, whether it's economic or whatever, have been regional before. You got a hurricane, you got a flood, you got a fire, you got a tornado, you've got whatever the heck. And so it's like regions, not the whole nation. This is, I mean, it's the whole planet, arguably. But quite frankly, this wasn't because this was nobody's fault that this happened. I mean, there's people chirping about the Chinese and whatever. We can do that later. But quite frankly, as far as this country goes, nobody made a mistake here. It affects the whole country. And by the way, a whole bunch of these businesses, small and large, were ordered to be shut down by state, local, federal authorities. And so it's like, heck, that's what makes this different from being going, all this money. It's like, what do you want us to do? We basically, at least partially, condemned these businesses, tell them they can't operate for public health reasons. You've got to basically come with something so that they're still there. And this is the most important part, Sam. It's like, we need the tax base to support state and local government. They can't go into debt. They can't print money. And so it's like, hey, I mean, head on a swivel, multitask, deal with economic, deal with health. They've got to go forward at the same time.
How many people are calling you and screaming at you at this point, business owners?
Well, you know what? I'll say this. First of all, our offices are all open, been open. Now, we're not open like you can walk in the front door. Most of the D.C. staff is working from home. We've got 2 people in the D.C. office that are within walking distance. They live on Capitol Hill, so they go there and work. Plenty of separation. We got one guy in Elko, so he's been separating, from the beginning. Yeah, he's automatic separating. And then we got 4 people in Reno, 5 people in Reno. where it's like, listen, the office is big enough where they can work. They're individual offices. They're not cubicles, so they can comply with all the separation stuff and this and that. We've said if somebody needs a face-to-face meeting, let us know, and we'll figure that out. So far, we've had no requests in Washington, D.C., Elko, Nevada, or the Truckee Meadows, Western Nevada, for any of that. So it's basically on the phone all day, every day, triaging everything from people on that ship that seems like old news a month ago, returning people from foreign countries that are scattered all over. There's still about 10,000 Americans that are scattered throughout the world. We're trying to get back. Small business issues, large business issues, unemployment issues, supplies for PPE, you name it. It's like it's the whole gamut in terms of basically trying to be a federal liaison to the people in, and I'd say CD too, but quite frankly, we've done as much work from people calling from Las Vegas who want to try to have some entree directly to the administration. So it's been a heck of a lot of work while we're also trying to keep a little bit of regular stuff moving at the same time.
Okay, can we hold you over for another show? Would that be all right?
Sure.
Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll do another program with Congressman Mark Amodei. I think the information is very important. We'll be right back.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com. As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's Development Company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's Development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
You can now watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Nevada Newsmakers and become a subscriber. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching and listening.